and welcome to another installment of prison museums around the world. We are now in Buenos Aires, Argentina. We'll be visiting the Argentine Prison Museum, as I will call it. It has an official title, Museo Penitenciario Antonio Balbe. But just to keep things straight, we are going to refer to it as the Argentine Prison Museum, and I will do my best to stick to my North American accent as best I can. Buenos Aires. What an amazing city. I was a visiting professor at the University of Buenos Aires, in the Faculty of Law. I want to reach out and say hello to my friends and colleagues there, as well as to the many, many, many friends I have in Buenos Aires. You may have heard me mention before that in addition to studying prisons and prison museums, I do so by way of the city. The city provides a social and cultural context for prisons. And it's hard for me to separate those connections. And so you're going to hear me oftentimes make comments about a city with respect to punishment and its emergence of a penal institution and so on and so forth. But more about that later. This is an analysis of the Argentine Prison Museum that takes on two theoretical perspectives. Michel Foucault, as you've heard me say in previous episodes, and Emile Durkheim. And these perspectives figure prominently in the book that I've written on the topic, Escape to Prison, Penal Tourism and the Pull of Punishment. So if you're looking for a source to delve into the Argentine Prison Museum, that is one. There are others, but let me just point to that one as we speak. And we're going to engage in what you've heard me say before in previous lectures, is the foreshadowing. And I'm circling with the cursor this logo, this insignia. And this is a semiotic device that is allowing us to foreshadow. The designers of this banner have deliberately placed this image into its banner so as to give us an idea, maybe even subconscious realization, that this will appear later in the tour. Let's move on. This prison museum is located in the San Telmo section of Buenos Aires, which was one of my many favorite neighborhoods in Buenos Aires, and I do have many favorite neighborhoods in Buenos Aires. I had the good fortune of living just around the corner from this prison museum in San Telmo. So if you're trying to locate geographically where it might be located, it's just right down the street from Plaza Dorrego, which is a very lively spot with bars and restaurants and dancing and music, and again, it's a very lively part of Buenos Aires. So when we walk into the entrance, this is what we see. And you might just kind of dismiss this as kind of this hokey mannequin that, you know, old-timey uniforms and so on and so forth. And it's so easy just to kind of dismiss that and move on without recognizing that there is a larger semiotic project underway. And that is museum studies frequently refer to a technique known as the walk through time. It's a chronological set of messages. So for example, if you go to a museum of natural history, oftentimes they'll begin with the early development of the planet Earth and then progress its way through the dinosaurs, and then through various developments of human beings and so on and so forth. So that is the walk through time, and it's a very seamless way to present otherwise complex developments, because history is not smooth. History, both social and natural history, is a progress of events and developments that move according to their own timetable, not our timetable, our perception of time, the temporal field. So, what does this opening segment of the museum suggest? The walk through time. So we see this mannequin here with this type of uniform, this mannequin with another type of uniform, and in a subtle shift, a third uniform. And this is how the curators are informing visitors that the Argentine Prison Museum is modern. And it became modern over time, deriving from its early military foundation to something in between the military and civilian, and finally a civilian uniform. Prisons are civilian operated institutions. That is the international norm. For a prison to be operated by a formal military unit does not constitute a penal institution. It constitutes a military institution. That is the international norm. But let's get back to the semiotics. This is a walk through time. And I want to draw attention to that because otherwise that would be a missed opportunity. Now we're still in the alcove of this prison museum. And here we have a montage of different photographs. And this is going to give us a lot of information. We mentioned Michel Foucault and Émile Durkheim. And Michel Foucault is a source from which we allow ourselves to understand these power strategies of the penal institution. The prison is a site where power is exercised. That is Michel Foucault 101. Okay? Émile Durkheim. The foundation of Durkheim's work that applies to this project is these socio-religious aspects of culture. And what we're going to see is this merging of the state and religious institutions, church and state. This is a dominant theme in the Argentine Prison Museum as I interpret it. I'm not letting go of Foucault entirely, but I want to gravitate to the significance of Émile Durkheim. And let's unpack some of these photographs. What you see in this frame here are women prisoners. And this was a prison that was operated by the Mother Superior. Between 1890 and 1978, Mother Superior was in charge of this institution, and she ran it from the perspective of a convent. These were young women who had strayed into wayward behavior and were now being corrected by way of religious instruction. And we have all kinds of references to the church, the Catholic Church in particular, but these socio-religious techniques of reform. And we've talked about this in the past with the Quakers in Eastern State Penitentiary, but this takes on a decidedly Argentine Catholic perspective. And here we see a prisoner playing the piano. This is almost a finishing school. The idea was that these women needed to come back by way of the Catholic Church and Mother Superior and return to the community where this young woman could re-enter a civilized society and be able to survive on these social skills of what it is like to be a woman in Argentina. Church and state. And here we see members of the state. Now, in the caption, it does not tell us who these men are. I have an idea, and those of you who have a keen understanding of Argentine political history would probably be able to make an educated guess. But before we move on, let me just remind you of the socio-religious aspects. I was raised in this tradition of parochial and Catholic schools, so I recognize this from the 1960s, what we would affectionately refer to as the Penguins. And those of you who are outside of this tradition now can appreciate why we as little kids would refer to these nuns as penguins. My aunt, incidentally, was a penguin, and when she would show up to social and family events in her outfit, I was always marveled that she was larger than life. And this penguin costume that we called it actually projected power. It projected authority. It also projected respect. So there's a lot of complex semiotics unfolding here at the Argentine Prison Museum. And I'm going to take a pause. I'm going to get a cup of coffee. And, well, we're in Buenos Aires, so maybe I should have a cappuccino and a media luna. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to take a break, but I'm going to leave you with this one thought. When we were kids in Catholic school, we would ask the question, what's black and white, black and white, black and white? It's a nun falling down the steps. It's just a joke.